Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Couch Quarterbacks podcast. I am Andrew Rochford, and with me is Ben Steinberg. And Stein, in today's episode, we will be recapping Super Bowl 56, a great matchup we had between the Rams and the Bengals.
Yeah, definitely not one of the worst Super Bowls we've seen in a minute. Obviously, that Rams-Patriots one in Atlanta a few years ago was probably the biggest stinker.
13-3 final score.
Yeah,
whatever.
we've had some thrilling ones in the past. I definitely would say this is a decent one, but not the best.
Yeah.
It was a great game. I enjoyed everything going into it. I really thought that SoFi was a great host, despite it being technically a Rams home game. I mean,
maybe not the best city in terms of Super Bowl celebrations, but...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Roach. I mean, we just saw a city that really had no football teams. I mean, had football teams back in the 90s and 70s and 80s, and teams have left them. They were pretty much a city without a team for pretty much all our lives.
They went from no teams to two teams, like in a
yeah,
matter
and then
of
added
a
two teams,
span.
And not to mention two teams with, I would say, not great fan bases overall. I mean, the Chargers did have a good fan base, like from San Diego, but as soon as they moved up the highway,
that's kind of notable
they've lost all those San Diego fans. And then also the Rams. You know, funny thing is the Rams were in LA at a time, but then the Raiders came in, and that kind of took a lot of that splendor and everything. So, and then they moved to St. Louis, have a decent following in St. Louis, and now they're back in LA, where really they're not even like a typical LA bandwagon team. They're not the Dodgers, they're not the Lakers. You know, heck, they're not even like the Clippers or something. Like, they're a team that really just kind of sat in the city. Granted, they are better following than the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, like, Chargers sometimes have more away fans at their home games than...
And we have seen these Rams, the stadium SoFi, fill up with, you know, so many Niners fans, with fans of, you know, the Seahawks and everything like that as well.
Other divisional opponents.
You know, definitely props to... This is all about the Rams team, not about the Rams, like, nation or whatever. Yeah. This isn't about them. This is about the Rams team. They got everything done they needed to. They're easily the best team in football. A lot of years, you know, that's kind of what the Super Bowl is supposed to do. It's supposed to weed out the best team in the entire league, and we saw that the Rams were obviously the best team.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it going in, how they had put all their chips into the middle of the table, getting all these different trades and free agent signings and everything. So it ends up paying off in the end for them, and a big congratulations, especially to the guys like Aaron Donald and that were on that team a couple years ago when they weren't able to get the Super Bowl victory. But kind of how we'll break down this episode is we'll kind of do a game recap, really summing up mainly just like the different scoring throughout the game. Then we'll get to like the final stats, a little 2022 outlook for these teams, and then at the very end maybe some bets that didn't hit or did and didn't hit during the ball game, because you know, you and I put a little dinero
skin
on
in
the game.
Yeah, this definitely also, fun fact, this was the most bet on sporting event in American history up to the point.
Okay.
I think every Super Bowl they always increase.
I guess that
it's kind of like they always beat the record every year, so they beat again. And also with so many states opening up gambling laws now too.
I feel like it's going to be like
so many more sports books. We've seen so much DFS. We've seen prize picks with prop bets. Sports betting is becoming a lot more of a regulated, but also a more, you know, open. There's many more players in the game rather than just going to Vegas or having your bookie who's your buddy or something, you know?
Yeah, how it's so easy to be able to do it like on your phone. It just makes it so convenient, and that's why so many people do it. But let's get into the game recap as the scoring opened with the Rams getting a touchdown first on the board. So the Rams got the ball first. They punted it away. Bengals go for it on a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, a 4th and short, end up having an incomplete pass. And so the Rams take over, and the first touchdown of the game is a 17-yard score for Odell Beckham Jr., which I was very happy about because I bet on the first touchdown score, bet Odell Beckham Jr. That pretty much made all my money back that I lost from betting on the Bengals in this ball game to win.
And it was a great throw and catch by Stafford and Odell. I mean, this was just, he had blanket kind of coverage on him and was just able to get kind of right past the cornerback's shoulder and was able to haul it in the pass. It was definitely not an easy catch. This is the Super Bowl. Everyone was firing in all cylinders, and Odell was able to complete it and really put the Rams out ahead early, set the tone.
Yeah, and it once again just showed how big of a signing Odell Beckham was after he was released midseason by the Browns. Like, he had so many touchdowns, was a great red zone target for the Rams and Matthew Stafford, and it showed with the first score on the board.
Yeah, the Bengals got the ball back and were able to get a 46-yard pass to Jamar Chase. Obviously, we kind of saw that coming at some point.
Yeah, we knew there was going to be some sort of big play to Jamar Chase. Seems like there's at least one of those a game, but the drive ended up fizzling out. 29-yard field goal for Evan McPherson,
and that
made
was
it a 7-3 score.
A 29-yard field goal is definitely something that is a little bit hot topic because they could have because 29 yards, they could have easily. It was at the
11, 12 yard line.
Yeah, could have easily tried to go again. I mean, it's the Super Bowl though, and Zach Taylor's not Brandon Staley. He's not gonna try to get that fourth down conversion. And
even though they did go for it 3 times on fourth down in the ball game, including their first.
Early you set the tone though, and you want to get those points when you can get them.
Definitely. So the Rams end up responding to that Bengals field goal with a 6-play, 75-yard touchdown drive, capped off by of course, Cooper Kupp, 11-yard touchdown catch. The extra point snap was muffed, though, by the punter, Johnny Hecker. So instead of 14-3 ball game, 13-3, which we thought would come back to bite the Rams late in the ball game, but when we get to that, it ended up not costing them at all.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that score, that was the exact score of the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl in Atlanta, and the Rams in literally, I guess, like 4 or 5 minutes really were able to double their score or triple their score, from where they were against the Patriots.
I feel bad for people with doing the Super Bowl squares where if they had the 4 for the Rams and then end up being the 3.
This was a very 7-3 kind of Super Bowl squares, kind of 0 kind of Super Bowl squares. I felt like every single score was just not anything in my... There was no weird numbers.
The weirdest one was the one that I won in your dad's Super Bowl squares at the end of the third quarter with it being 20-16, so 0-6. I mean, I guess that's kind of weird, but 6 is still pretty much a expected football number that you would have.
Yeah.
So.
If there was an 8 or a 2, that's when we were getting into the weirdness. Then after that, Bengals respond with a 12-play, 75-yard drive, able to take 7 minutes off the clock. Joe Mixon with the Mixon TD pass to T. Higgins.
I wish you would have thrown down some money.
Yeah, there was definitely a prop bet of a non-offensive player to throw a non-quarterback player to throw a touchdown, and that hit with Joe Mixon connected to T. Higgins.
It was plus 1,100.
Yeah, the odds were
great.
That,
so it would have been a great payday if we would have even put $1 on that. That still would have been a great payoff.
Yeah,
but
definitely better than, but definitely more rare than I put money on the defensive score and that didn't happen, so I would say more rare.
Even with 2 Matt Stafford interceptions, but 13-10 ball game, it ends up staying at that at halftime. Matt Stafford ended up throwing a pick in the end zone on a deep shot to Van Jefferson.
Jesse Bates on the pick. So we kind of go into halftime with some Bengals momentum.
But I feel like this is where the Bengals really wanted them. The Bengals, it seems like pretty much this whole playoffs had kind of gotten off to slow starts, and then in the Chiefs game, they were down by double digits. Kind of everyone counted them out, and then they're having a great second half. So I think with being down 3 at half, it's kind of just right where you want them. You were the last team to score at the end of the first half.
Yeah, and then it helps that you have Evan McPherson, who's really taken the special teams world by storm. Might be a top 5 kicker next year, easily. Just helps to have him, especially in the second half. I think that's what the Bengals were kind of hanging their hat on. And they show that Stafford wasn't going to be perfect in this game. And we've talked about that this entire season, how Stafford is good for a few interceptions.
And we kept waiting during the playoffs for him to have one of those type of games. He had more interceptions in this game than he did in the whole playoffs in the previous 3 games.
Yeah, so the first play of the second half, Bengals really set the tone, and that is a 75-yard pass touchdown to T. Higgins, who was blanketed by Jalen Ramsey. And everyone's saying that this was a missed call by the officials. All dozen Rams fans were crying foul because It looked like T. Higgins had a little bit of a push up, kind of a wrap up and push down. It's one of those plays where we really got to talk about the first half and the officiating, because there was like 0 flags.
Yeah, I mean, there were 6 penalties in the entire game, and about 3 of them were on the Bengals during that final drive of the ball game where the Rams
But
took the
this
lead.
first half, I mean, we did have that excessive celebration.
Yeah,
the unsportsmanlike conduct by
Vernon
Hargraves, who wasn't even dressed, which is hilarious how that happens.
Yeah.
He runs out into the end zone to celebrate one of the interceptions. So that's pretty funny. But this was a blatant missed call that T. Higgins did get away with. It ended up in a touchdown. Bengals take the lead 17-13.
Yeah, I mean, you can always talk about at the end of games. It's like, oh, you see, like, what's the common saying where it's like, oh, there's a holding on every single play. Like, it's whether or not the refs actually will end up calling it. But the refs were very loose in terms of letting the guys play in this one when you talk about 6 total penalties in the ball game.
Yeah,
so.
I felt like that was the message coming in from the NFL. Like, they've been scorned all season by so many bad calls. This is one of the worst.
I was going to say, it's pretty much a lose-lose situation because, you know, when you have the games where there's like a flag on every single play or every other play, it's like, man, there's so many penalties, like all the stoppage and play, and then you have games like this, like, oh, they're letting them play way too much. It's like, well, which one do you want? So it like I said, it's just a double-edged sword on the official side of things, where it's like, do you want to have like a very closely called game, or do you want to like try and just let them play out a game and just keep the game flow going?
I have 2 hot takes on this, Roach. One is that this season has been one of the worst officiated season. We've seen so many terrible calls.
Maybe since the replacement refs, I would say.
Yeah, one of the seasons to forget. I'm sure there's a few lowlights that we can find in the future. But also, my second hot take is that maybe commercials were so expensive that they didn't want a lot of breaks in the play, so they wanted the clock to keep rolling and stuff. So maybe the NFL encouraged, because they probably, I mean, I'm sure everyone wants the Super Bowl commercial, and they'll auction it off if they can't get people to sell. But, you know, maybe there was a little bit of, like, you know, some corporate work at hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's always stuff going on behind the scenes, so I can
That's
definitely
my
see where that
tinfoil hat theory.
Get off your soapbox. So.
Yeah.
So the Bengals end up taking their first lead of the ball game, 17-13 on the first play of the second half. On the next drive for the Rams, Stafford ends up throwing his second interception of the ball game, and that leads to a 38-yard field goal for McPherson, and the Bengals take a touchdown
This
lead.
is definitely probably like that point in that little graph that ESPN always has, where the win percentage just goes up for the Bengals. If you're a Bengals fan, you were buzzing at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, like, no one's saying the Bengals blew a lead, because, you know, the Rams just kind of imposed their will the next few drives.
Yeah, I mean, after that field goal, the Rams were able to respond with a field goal of their own from 41 yards, so 20-16 ball game, and then we just stopped the scoring.
It turns into Sackfest, Sackfest 2022.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, I think, was either not sacked or sacked one time in the first half. In the third quarter alone, he was sacked 5 times on like 12 dropbacks. The ESPN Stats and Info's Twitter account had something where it was like a Super Bowl record for a single quarter. Sacked 5 times. The Bengals couldn't do anything. The Rams couldn't do anything. There were 7 straight punts.
Rams kept trying to run it up the middle too, with Sonny Michel and Cam Akers.
Yeah,
and Darrell Henderson too. So was getting these short passes, and they just kept getting smashed by that Bengals defensive line, which really stepped up. Also got a few pressures on Stafford and had him go down a few times.
Yeah, so from like midway to the third quarter to the basically end of the fourth quarter, we had no scoring on the board. The Rams finally changed that with a 15-play, 79-yard drive, capped off by a Cooper Kupp 1-yard touchdown with 1:25 left in the ball game. And once again, a couple of questionable penalty calls on the Bengals late in that one. Really the biggest one for me, I know I kept saying it when we were watching it live, was I believe it was Trey Hendrickson on Cooper Kupp. They called a defensive holding on him on a big third and goal play where it would have led to 4th and goal, but they get the automatic first down. There was 1 or 2 other penalties which were actually penalties, and then Cooper Kupp gets a touchdown on Eli Apple.
Yeah, and Eli Apple, what a guy that game he had a terrible game and was just getting
after being
dragged.
able to shut down Tyreek Hill 2 weeks ago.
Dude was getting dragged on Twitter by every single guy in the NFL. It was pretty funny. I encourage y'all to look him up on Twitter or something and see what was being said about him. But Roach,
yesterday or 2 days ago, he had a response on Twitter just saying like how we'll be back and better than ever and being able to cover all these guys next season.
I think Mecole Hardman said it the best though when he said like focus on your craft and you'll get one of these because he was showing his Super Bowl ring.
Oh yeah.
But Roach, I do ask you that Rams possession that obviously had some quote unquote ref influence at the end to get that Cooper Kupp touchdown. If they don't get that penalty and they are forced to go fourth down with that much time, with I guess a little bit of time left on the clock.
The Rams had all 3 of their timeouts.
Do you kick that field goal so at least a field goal could win it, or do you try to go for it and just put all your chips in as the Rams have?
That's tough. I'm trying to think. I know it would have been a 4th and goal, so they were obviously inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, and
I feel like you would have to trust your offense in that scenario. Like you're down there in that situation. I wouldn't trust Matt Gay. Maybe if you had Evan McPherson as a kicker, but I wouldn't trust Matt Gay if you had to end up kicking a long field goal.
I mean, you had to look at the time of the clock, 1:25. That's a decision that no one wants to make with the ball, it's not like the Bengals were able to really get anything going on offense, and we saw that on the exact next drive. Bengals had a chance to win it, and get down to midfield. Things were kind of looking a little.
Yeah, you need like 15 yards to just get a Evan McPherson field goal to send it into overtime.
They were showing his field goal range, showing him warming up, and I was thinking that this stage is going to be big for him. This is going to be his career. Like this kick was going to define Evan McPherson's career
in his rookie season.
Honestly, seriously, Rich. Like this kid is being thrust to kick a field goal to really.
I mean, how many times have they trusted him in previous games? Like 2 other game-winning kicks during this playoff run. So yeah, I mean, he's just been money.
To tie it. I mean, and not just to tie it. Like we would still probably have overtime, if not. I don't know how much the Rams trust Stafford with like Aaron Rodgers with you left too much time on the clock, but it just would have been. It's so many what could have happened, and you just got to feel for Bengals fans because they get that they get stuffed on the 3rd and 1.
Yeah, questionable play call with. I understand the 3rd and 1. You're trying to catch them off guard. It's we'll do a run play here, but you got Samaje Perine in there. It's not even Joe Mixon in there.
Yeah,
and he gets stuffed on the 3rd and 1 by Aaron Donald.
And this is where we kind of were thinking all right, this is your ball game. This play is going to decide who's winning the Super Bowl. And basically what happened was I personally thought it's worked in Joe Burrow's career. I've seen it where he will drop back. And then the play will break down a little bit. He's always had not great blocking in his career, especially in the NFL. And we've seen him move up in the pocket and able to maybe get 1 or 2 yards and slide and call it dead.
He had a couple of big scrambles in the Chiefs game.
Exactly. So that was my kind of play call. Aaron Donald comes up right to the right middle, able to beat the tackle. Really put a pressure on Joe. Joe's basically spinning as he's throwing it.
Yeah, he spun around and basically just had a desperation throw up. And Samaje Perine was within 3 yards. But
even if he would have caught it, those Rams defenders would have collapsed and he would have easily been taken down. But
yeah, I mean, it would have led to a first down, but still, it was something where it wasn't close enough where he was able to make the catch. So the Rams end up getting the 4th down stand, and then they just take a couple knees.
And that's got to be the greatest feeling in the world when that ball hits the turf.
Yeah, I mean, being able to go out there in the Super Bowl, take a victory formation, that has to be one of the greatest feelings in the world.
Yeah, I feel like in recent Super Bowls, I mean, last year's one was a blowout, but I feel like in a lot of Super Bowls we see most guys play out the clock. We don't see a lot of kneel downs.
Yeah.
And this was a kneel down. This is a great feeling. Everyone was they were on the field by 30 seconds left, shaking hands. That's just how it kind of happened. And props to the Rams. You can't say it enough. Able to get their 2nd Super Bowl. Obviously, the greatest show on turf with the first one. Matt Stafford, congrats to him. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
A guy who, I'll ask you the question, Roach, and this could be a debate for a future show. But do you think this puts Stafford in the hall?
It definitely puts him in the conversation and on the right trajectory. So I think with the Rams have another chance to run it back next season, but I definitely think that this puts him in line, especially with 17-game seasons, being able to inflate your stats a little bit. that he'll definitely, if not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I think he will definitely eventually be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, this game really cemented a lot of guys' legacies. Aaron Donald, easily first ballot, and this is going to be another notch in his belt that's already, even without the Super Bowl, would probably been first ballot.
Yeah.
Great to see him win. He's a guy who's, came from a smaller school in Pitt, not a huge football factory compared to other schools, but
not your prototypical size and build for an interior defensive guy.
Always been undersized. I always make the joke him and Trae Young are the same size in terms of height, not weight.
I mean, you saw how emotional he was after the game too, how much it meant to him. Obviously,
and he's a great leader on the field and off the field. And then we see a few divas win rings with Odell and Jalen Ramsey.
We didn't mention Odell obviously tearing his ACL in the ball game.
That
was terrible for him. This is the second season in a row that he's tearing his ACL. Probably with the timing wise, he's gonna miss just about all of next season, and he's an impending free agent.
Yeah, so he'll probably won't see the field much next season, but he able to get that ring for himself, and he was a contributor too.
Definitely. I mean, I was saying,
you can't say he wasn't a contributor on this team, because he was. So.
Yeah, and how about Eric Weddle coming out of retirement after the injury to Jordan Fuller and into the Super Bowl, tearing his pec. I don't know if you saw the picture of it, how bruised his pec was. Yeah. He ends up playing in the game with the torn pec, gets a Super Bowl ring, and now goes back to the retirement home.
That's pretty fun. You just run it. You're like, all right, I'm. They probably found him in a farm in Alaska, and he's chopping trees, and it's we need you for one more job. He's like, I gave that up. The typical thing. And
go all Hollywood.
Yeah, he has a huge beard. Well, he already had a huge beard. I don't think Eric Weddle ever had a ring, because the Chargers, Ravens. I don't think he was on those Ravens team that won. I think he was still on the Chargers at that point.
I don't think so.
So yeah, able to get that ring for a career that's pretty good. Definitely going to be a Ring of Honor for probably the Chargers or somebody like that.
Yeah, and then McVay becoming the youngest Super Bowl winning head coach at 36 years old.
I would say this puts McVay as a top 3 coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
Easy. Right now. I mean, obviously not all time. He might be top 20 all time.
I mean, think about it. 2 Super Bowl appearances by age 36. You got 1 Super Bowl win.
Your coaching tree is the hottest commodity right now in the NFL.
I was going to say he started the whole trend of being this young head coaching offensive guru type.
Yeah, I mean that everyone always makes the joke that 2013 Washington Commanders or Washington football team,
Washington Redskins at the time.
Yeah, their coaching staff so many good coaches.
Shanahan, LaFleur.
Yeah, and obviously with McVay, who actually, it was interesting. They were talking about rumors of him retiring. Did you see that, Rose?
I did see that. It's I see maybe the Aaron Donald retirement rumors, Andrew Whitworth being 40
obviously
years old.
He's done, yeah.
But Sean McVay 36. You've been a head coach for what?
You're the same age as Matt Ryan. I mean.
Yeah, I did think that was kind of weird, because I think he's definitely got a bright future in the NFL.
I mean, if people work in his staff, they basically have a automatic, clause for them to get hired anywhere in football.
And you saw it with their offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, ends up getting hired with the last head coaching spot, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so he goes there. So another guy from that tree. And so McVay, definitely, I would say right now it's probably Belichick. I don't even want to say Carroll or Arians. I would say McVay could be number 2 right now in the NFL in terms of who do you want as your head coach.
Yeah, I think he's definitely up there. I think LaFleur with the Packers, obviously
Shanahan,
being on that coaching staff.
And John Harbaugh too. I mean, those are just some of the top guys, but I would put literally McVay at top 3. Right now. Yeah. But let's talk about some of the stats, Roach, from this game. So 6 total penalties. We've already talked about that. 4 on the Bengals, including the unsportsmanlike or excessive. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, like I said, there was the 2 penalties, I think, on the Bengals during that final drive. So there was only 3 or 4 penalties for the majority of the ball game.
Yeah, and a very, very disciplined Rams team, really not getting a whole lot of penalties, which is interesting. For the Rams, Matt Stafford, 26 of 40, 283 yards. Why do I always see that number everywhere I go? 28-3 in the suit. I know.
I didn't even notice that.
It's taunting me, Roach. It's I see that number everywhere I go.
Wow.
3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not a great game for him. I think there was a bet where it's 40 plus or 39.5 passing
Oh, dang.
attempts
So
for
he's
Stafford.
barely hitting the over on that. But
Yeah.
did have the 3 touchdowns, 1 to OBJ, 2 to Cooper Kupp, 2 interceptions. Really didn't end up hurting him at all. On the one possession, the Bengals didn't respond with a score. The other one, it was a field goal. So just 3 points off of those 2 turnovers.
Yeah, Cam Akers and really the run game as a whole was not good.
Yeah, the
13
Rams have not been living on the run game during this playoff run yet. 13 carries, 21 yards.
And it goes against the adage that that to win in the playoffs you need a run game to control the clock. I mean, I guess you can put it on their defense.
And it also just goes to like the kind of shift in terms of like passing is definitely superior in the NFL now.
I mean, run game when it works, you can't be beat, but you can also try to win. If you can have a good passing game, you can win any game as well.
Yeah, they had 43 total yards as a team, under 2 yards a carry overall. So definitely not beating anyone through the ground. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yes,
he was the Super Bowl MVP.
Was Super Bowl MVP. I'm sure there was a pretty good bet on that. OBJ, 2 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown on that first couple of plays. And then he obviously went down with the knee injury.
Yeah,
and
he
was
got hurt
out
in the
for
second
rest
quarter, so wasn't able to boost that stat line, but had a great start to the ball game.
Yes.
And then Bryson Hopkins, their third string tight end. So Tyler Higbee out in this ball game. Their second string guy, who I can't even think of his name, Kendall Blanton.
Yeah, you like Kendall Blanton a lot.
Yeah, I picked him in a bunch of prop bets and stuff. He ended up getting some sort of injury during the game. They reported it during the fourth quarter. But Bryson Hopkins had 4 catches for 47 yards. So he was really their third receiving target and really their second receiving target after OBJ went down behind Cooper Kupp. But Cooper Kupp, I mean, just wrapping up a great 2021-2022 season.
Easily one of the best receiving seasons we've had. And it's funny because Kupp isn't like... A lot of people still are reluctant to put Kupp as up there with D-Hop and Devontae Adams, as one of the best receivers skill-wise in the NFL.
I mean, still came from like a small school in Eastern Washington.
Yeah, if you watch his highlights, it's literally on that red turf at Eastern Washington. It's awful.
But that's what he had the second most receiving yards during the regular season, right behind Calvin Johnson's record. He had the second most yards during the playoffs and second most touchdowns during a single postseason behind the 2008 legendary Larry Fitzgerald. So just wraps up a great season and gets obviously the Super Bowl MVP. Adds that too. He was the offensive player of the year. Wasn't he? Yeah.
I'm sure he has some other accolades that from all these different news sites and news outlets. So just a great season for Kupp. Definitely really going to cement him as the top receiver, if not a top 5 receiver, going forward in the NFL.
And that's what him and Stafford will both be running it back on the Rams next season. So Cooper Kupp will probably be the number 1 fantasy wide receiver off the board.
Yeah, this guy's going to rack up 10 receptions plus a game.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we've seen.
It'll be him and Devontae Adams, definitely 1-2 off the board for fantasy next year.
Well, man, Devontae Adams maybe.
Well, I guess it does depend on where Devontae Adams ends up and if he's got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Yeah, for the Bengals, thanks for coming out. You guys tried, but really, 3 of 14 on third down. Third down was their boogeyman roach, not able to get it. Also, a little bit aggressive, 1 for 3 on fourth down, including that last possession that they had. So not able to.
And the fourth down conversion they got was kind of questionable. When they had the lead, either 20-13 or 20-16, driving down the field, they were in field goal range and ended up getting a field goal. Yeah, so it was a 17-13 game. It's when they went up 20-13.
Yeah,
but
Burrow was decent. I mean, every all eyes were on him. The spotlight wasn't too big. 22 of 33, 263 yards with a touchdown. Was sacked 7 times, so adding to his already insane sack total this postseason.
Yeah, it tied the Super Bowl record for 7 sacks in the ball game. He finished with like 64 times sacked on the season. It was like the third most, including regular season and playoffs in NFL history. So obviously the big need for the Bengals, once again going into the draft, will be just anywhere on that offensive line getting Joe Burrow protection. They do have a lot of salary cap too, so maybe even in the free agent
and
market.
I'm sure it's not a terrible place and it's not a terrible destination right now. I feel like Cincy is going to be more of a better place for guys to go.
I mean, being able to go to the Super Bowl this season, they've got the young offensive core. They made some nice free agent acquisitions on defense over the past couple seasons.
One or two offensive linemen either added or back backups they can add will definitely go to help Joe Burrow not get sacked 7 times. And this is definitely not the last we'll see of Joe Burrow. Obviously, people bring up the comparison of Dan Marino.
I was going to say, if anything, this was a year too early for this Bengals team.
Everyone always brings up the comparison to Dan Marino, though. They say, when Dan Marino lost his only Super Bowl he went to, they said he was really young. They said, all right, he'll be back. Never went back.
Ended up going back.
Never, ever went back, And everyone's going to say that about Joe right now. They say he's really young. I mean, he's actually, funny enough, Lamar's younger
25.
than him. Yeah, Lamar is younger than him and Kyler and all them, but he still is NFL young, so he definitely has a lot of years with a young core. Like we said in our preview show, we have Mixon, we have Chase, we have T, like CJ Uzama, like all those guys are going to be back, and hopefully will be back and will be able to lead this Bengals defense. Speaking of Joe Mixon, he was probably their best offensive weapon, I would say.
Yeah, 15 carries, 72 yards, and then obviously that 6-yard pass.
Definitely best guy on the ground.
Yeah, he had 5 receptions, but only 1 yard. So trying to get him in the passing game, but it just was not working.
T. Higgins did have himself a game, 4 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I would say he was their best weapon.
I mean, the stats a little inflated. Did have that 75-yard catch, so you think 3 receptions, 25 yards, and a single touchdown. And the second touchdown where it was questionable whether or not it could have happened. Jamar Chase kind of contained in this one, 5 catches for 89 yards. He was there at times, but then sometimes kind of disappeared in the ball game. One picture that kind of comes up is on that 4th down where he was on a vertical route and Jalen Ramsey had fallen down, but it's Joe Burrow only had a second to pass the ball.
When you have Von Miller, Aaron Donald, all those guys in your face, you're going to make mistakes.
You expect Joe Burrow to shake out of a spin move when Aaron Donald's got him in the spin cycle and just heave it up 40 yards
It's one thing
downfield.
against 2019 bad Georgia defensive linemen when he can do that. It's another thing when you're going against grown-ass men and Aaron Donald, the grownest-ass man in the NFL.
Yeah. And then Tyler Boyd, 5 catches for 48 yards just to round out the receiving effort for the Bengals as they just come up a little bit short in this ball game. But like I said, hopefully we'll be back, and I think we'll definitely be a AFC contender for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, this AFC, we're seeing a complete change of the eras. We saw Big Ben, we saw Tom Brady both retire. So now we got Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, and Herbert. And maybe Jackson. Yeah, and maybe Jackson. Jackson's always kind of like the guy at the end included, but all those guys are going to be leading this AFC battle. And you can even throw Derrick Henry in there as representing his team. Tua, Drew Lock.
No, please. Okay. No. All right, so let's get into the 2022 outlook for both of these teams, how they're looking going into next season. So the Rams have quite a few free agents with buying all these chips and guys.
We've seen them put guys on 1-year deals and really kind of trying to invest in them.
So the most notable guys include Von Miller, obviously, Darius Williams in the secondary, Sony Michel, another guy they traded for. A couple guys on the offensive line, Austin Corbett, Joe Noteboom, Brian Allen, their center. And then you also got OBJ, Troy Reeder, the linebacker, and then their kicker, Matt Gay, are all free agents.
Yeah, so really looking at this is going to be hard to bring all of them back. I know a lot of Super Bowl teams, we saw it with the Bucs, quote, want to run it back, but we've seen guys, sometimes when you run it back, you get a little bit of that Super Bowl hangover. Mm-hmm. We saw that with Philly, pretty much. So it's going to be hard to really keep everything together. I don't think OBJ is seeing the field.
Like I said, OBJ, especially since he's probably not going to be able to play next season, does he get a deal somewhere? Does someone sign him to a 2-year deal where he gets a very small contract in the first year and is very backloaded in that second year?
I don't think he even gets a deal. I think he's going to be a free agent all season, and then come next year we'll probably we'll get a deal.
And maybe it's something where he just works on all the recovery and everything like that. Then it's almost like a pitcher in the MLB where they have an open tryout where they show off and he'll run some routes and stuff.
Von Miller, I also don't see coming back as easily. He definitely can go finish out his career someplace, get overpaid.
I was gonna say he might just try and take some money and go to maybe a less than stellar team, or
go to the Raiders or something.
Or if he wants to try and get another Super Bowl ring, maybe try and take a little bit of a cheaper deal somewhere.
Yeah. Also, really cool note on Von Miller. He dedicated his performance in his season to Demaryius Thomas, his former teammate.
Yeah, very nice tribute.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool. But some of these other guys, I mean, I really think that the Rams can afford to bring them back. I like Joe Noteboom kind of as and Troy. Joe Noteboom as a good backup.
The biggest loss is definitely to the offensive line. 3 of those guys are offensive linemen. Whitworth is 99% going to retire, so that's a 4th guy on the offensive line.
Yeah, so this could be a complete offensive line shakeup. All these, when you win a Super Bowl as an offensive lineman, your stock definitely rises. Also, the fact that you weren't the guy who gave up 7 sacks.
Yeah, they only gave up 2 sacks on Matt Stafford in the ball game.
So that will help. Also, we already talked about the offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell going to the Vikings. So McVay is now without another assistant.
Yeah, and it shouldn't affect the Rams too much. McVay was already calling the plays anyway, but we'll need to replace that offensive coordinator position.
Surprised Raheem Morris didn't get any more looks.
Yeah. He's been a great DC for them the past couple seasons, so hopefully he can continue with that and then maybe get some more head coaching looks in the near future.
But still have a few guys returning. I would say, Stafford, Kupp, Akers, and Ramsey are all guarantees. Donald's been a little bit.
Yeah, they've been talking about him maybe retiring, but obviously if he comes back, he'll be another big name that will be coming back for them. But obviously they don't have a pick until round 3 this year. They've been selling all their first-round draft picks since the Jared Goff draft pick back in 2016, and then they're also $20 million over the cap right now. So gonna have to find some pieces to move or to cut in order to get under the cap and maybe sign back a couple of these guys that will be upcoming free agents.
Yeah, guys are going to want paydays, and with the Super Bowl, since they've climbed the mountain, the odds of them wanting to climb the same mountain again with the same team is not as good as it could have been. So there could be some, wanting to go get max contracts with a team that's willing to overspend. There's a few teams that have a lot of financial flexibility, like Washington and the
Dolphins are our team. Yeah. The Jaguars are another team. The Bengals,
Jets, the Jets.
The Bengals, when we get to them, they actually have the 4th best or 4th most cap space, I guess is the right wording for it.
That's awesome.
They've got a lot of cap space.
Yeah, let's switch over to the Bengals. Their free agents this year are offensive lineman Riley Reif, defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi, CJ Uzomah, the tight end, and then some of their secondary with Jesse Bates the third, Eli Apple, and Quentin Spain. Also Trey Flowers, the kind of do-it-all defensive lineman slash linebacker.
A couple offensive linemen. You got the defensive lineman with Ogunjobi, tight end Uzomah, and then 3 guys in the secondary with Bates, Apple, and Flowers. So
Flowers is in the secondary. My bad.
Yeah, and so all these guys you're really going to want to, especially fix the defense. That was kind of the big thing for them. They're pretty much fine on the offense, but with having that financial flexibility,
offensive line.
Well, besides the offensive line, offensive weapons. So $50 million in cap space. Like I said, that they got a lot of money. They have all their draft picks as well. They'll be picking 31st in the first round, but they've got all their picks available. So definitely going to be keying in on the offensive front.
I think Apple might have lost himself a contract with the way that he kind of got all the off-field stuff going on.
I think he'll get a contract. I don't think he'll come back with a Bengals.
No, he might have lost the Bengals deal because of all that stuff. Jesse Bates, they got to keep. The guy's been a stud for them.
I was reading something earlier today where they're making it a priority to try and sign him to an extension before the new season begins.
Yeah, Larry Ogunjobi played really well on the D-line, so I hope they can get him back.
Yeah, sad that he was injured during the playoffs. So
and then CJ Uzomah, who really started coming on in the playoffs. Hopefully they can get him back, because I feel like we just started seeing what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah, really starting to hit his potential in his late 20s. So they've got the young offensive core coming back, like I said, with all the weapons, and then still have a bunch of those defensive free agent acquisitions. So they still have a lot of pieces there, and then to be able to have the draft capital, financial flexibility.
They even show that graphic of all those guys they've added over free agency to their defense, with Hendrickson and Flowers and those guys over the past few years. So that's kind of cool that they built through free agency, and that also have the draft capital to add more to their offensive line and get some defensive help. So pretty much the only thing they don't need to touch is receiving receiving core, running backs, quarterback, and tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, with a good draft, with some good signings in free agency, there's really no reason to not expect them to be back in a great position to
Isn't it so much easier to draft when you have a quarterback?
It definitely is. You don't have to like have that looming over you. It's like, oh, when do we get a quarterback? Like, should we draft a quarterback?
That just throws a wrench in so many teams.
It's been the Falcons draft for the past 3 years.
It's been the Jets. It's been the Giants. It's been so many. It's been Washington. It's been so many teams. Like mess up. Issue is they don't know when to draft a quarterback. They miss out on really good skill positions and other guys because they want to take this quarterback in the second or first round, and then they end up missing out on the other parts. But this is all draft talk. We'll get into that when we get into that. Let's talk about a few of the fun bets we had, some of the other stuff like the halftime show and the commercials. Let's start with bets, Roach. First thing off, Mickey Guyton with the Super Bowl national anthem hit the over.
Yeah, it wasn't looking good, but those last two lines really drug them out. It needed about 30 seconds for them.
Yeah, so we saw a flyover too. Also, we love to say tails never fails, and it usually never fails, but it was heads.
Yeah, and what is it, 7-8 years in a row, something like that, where the team that has lost the coin toss has ended up winning the Super Bowl since
the winning team has lost the first play. I actually had that bet, first play pass, because I was thinking that maybe the Bengals were going to get the ball, want to set the tone.
Bengals did pass on their first play, but they had the ball second.
Yes, so first play was a run by the Rams. I also had first drive punt, which was really stupid odds. Yeah, so I got that one that hit actually because the Rams did end up punting. Roach had OBJ with the first touchdown score. That was probably his best bet of the year.
I put $15 down on that one, like $120. So like I said, I put $100 down on the Bengals. Ended up losing all that money. So I ended up
I looked over. You were definitely really upset with those last few calls. I saw.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was just like right there. I would have won $275, but oh well, it is what it is.
Cooper Kupp had 2 touchdowns. That helped.
Yeah, I'm sure a couple of people had that as a 2-touchdown score. I mean,
probably was a DFS
been automatic all season.
Yeah.
We talked about the non-QB passing touchdown, like the great odds for that. So anyone that bet on that, I know was very happy.
Yeah.
The under hit in the ball game, I bet the over. Life's too short to bet the under.
Exactly.
With the 7 straight punts in the second half, that pretty much killed the over from happening. The Bengals ended up covering. Of course, like I said, I put the money line on them. But anyone that did have the Bengals to cover, because the line was like 3.5, 4.5 around there. So either way, the 3-point ball game, the Bengals end up covering, and then Blue Gatorade,
one of my favorite bets every year.
Yeah, was the winning the head coach.
I'm glad I didn't take that bet. That was one of those like phantom bets where you kind of put it in mentally, but you don't actually see it. I personally saw that. I was thinking red. It was blue. Second year in a row. So third year, I doubt it. Gambler's fallacy. It can't hit 3 times in a row.
I mean, do teams pay attention to that at the end of every season? They're like, oh no, we can't take the blue one.
Exactly. I heard they fill up multiple coolers with different colors, so it's just like depending on what they grab. Also, another few things. Halftime show. Loved it.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely like the cutoff line in terms of ages. So anyone over the age of about 40, probably just kind of like our parents.
No, I heard that it was. I've heard everything that it was anyone from 25 to like 45 loved it. Mm-hmm. And anyone over and anyone under hated it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just depends on if it's like the music that you listen to like while you're growing up. So like, I mean, you got Eminem, Snoop Dogg, like Kendrick Lamar. Like it just depends on like where you fall in terms of.
There wasn't really like a crazy thing to happen. Obviously we had with Janet Jackson.
You had the 50 Cent appearance.
Yeah, he was upside down. But that's from the music video that he was in with Into Club. So it's funny, like. We did Left Shark. Remember the Sharks thing? Yeah. And then Shakira's like obviously awesome thing with the tongue. I don't know what that was. And then last year's like him in the mirror.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like really like a meme from this one. I guess just like there was the knee taken by Eminem, which was generated a little buzz, but
everyone's like, oh, why is he taking a knee or anything? It's like why Why couldn't it just have been like
I don't know. There wasn't a lot of buzz on. I mean, there wasn't a lot of like talk.
Controversial
Yeah,
stuff.
it wasn't super crazy, but
And
I enjoyed it.
commercials, bunch of crypto commercials. I mean,
A lot of crypto. There was that weird QR code that was like the DVD screensaver.
Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to the commercials. I was more kind of like looking at my bets. I'm like, okay, when is this gonna hit?
Yeah.
Like during the commercial break. So
I need to like rewatch some of the commercials. I thought there was a lot of good car ones. I like the
Sopranos
one. That one was awesome. That one I really enjoyed. I like the one with the obviously bring back the Austin Powers.
Yeah,
great movie.
Yeah, that was a good one. I wish that Mini Me was in it. They did have like the baby me or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Like everybody's trying to be like Baby Yoda. Remember they had the baby nut a few years ago.
Yeah.
And, I thought they were pretty good. Just weird cryptos, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are like way older than us who are just like, we don't even know what crypto is, really. And God knows what those people are thinking.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and just kind of look pretty much down the road, Roach. Next Super Bowl, February 12th, 2023 in Glendale University of Phoenix Stadium or State Farm Stadium, whatever it's called now, in Arizona. We have a logo that drops, so that's going to be, you're going to see that everywhere. It looks good. And really, we already have opening odds created with the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs both being the two favorites.
I mean, it makes sense with just how like that game was during the divisional round, just the slugfest and all the scoring in the final 2 minutes, that they're the two favorites in this ball game. The Rams, the Super Bowl champions for this season, plus 1,100, so the third best odds right now. And then
Bengals,
the Bengals,
number 4 with plus 12, about 1,300. Buccaneers, interesting that they're still up there, even though they lost Brady. I think that really takes away, they're probably going to lose a lot of guys.
Yeah, and then also the 49ers, too. I mean, they were kind of more of a surprising team this year. You don't really know what their QB situation is going to look like
Cowboys,
next
Packers,
season.
Titans, Ravens. And look at this. The Broncos, ahead of the Chargers, the Colts, the Cardinals.
Yeah.
If the trend continues, we will see the Cardinals next year in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, true. I mean, back-to-back years of the team hosting the Super Bowl ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Yes.
So
as to where the Falcons are, they are plus 5,400 right now, so closer to the bottom.
I mean, as to be expected, kind of in the bottom 10. Not the worst, but definitely not the best.
I've actually seen a few articles, Roach, and a few headlines about the Falcons being a potential surprise team next year, kind of like the Bengals were.
I don't know. I mean,
It just depends on the quarterback.
Yeah, you don't know with quarterback, offensive weapons. You don't know with Calvin Ridley. You got your draft picks, but in terms of financial flexibility, you don't have a whole lot there. They did release Dante Fowler.
Dante Fowler will be a healthy.
And nice 7.5 sacks from that 3-year $45 million deal.
And then the bottom 3, which is the Jets, the Lions, and the Texans, all around the same, plus 11,000. If you had to pick one of those, I'm picking the Lions.
The Lions and the fighting Dan Campbells.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate the pick, but you're also it's like picking between garbage and more garbage. So.
Yeah, the Lions were like 11-4 against the spread this year or whatever.
Good teams win, great teams cover the spread.
11-4, so that's 15 games. So they were favored in 2 games. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they did play, they probably played some of those other bad teams this season. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Just because the football season is over does not mean we'll stop posting. Of course, we'll be doing, probably the next thing we'll do is some recaps on like some of the teams from this season. Maybe look at what they're going to be doing going into next season. And then, of course,
free agents.
Of course, with the draft coming up in a couple of months, it's going to be mock draft season and everything. So we'll obviously have our draft preview show just like we had last year.
I'll definitely have a full on-air Falcons mock draft that me and Andrew will probably both try to collab on. And we'll watch. I'll see some of the combine. Like, obviously, with the combine, we'll see some guys get it because we don't know who the number 1 pick's going to be right now. It's crazy.
It used to be Aiden Hutchinson. It was Kevon Thibodeau, and now it's kind of leaning towards Evan Neal. So definitely with a couple months away until the NFL draft, still going to be a lot of shakeup and everything. But we'll still have mock draft stuff, and we'll still be posting stuff, even though we're in the off season. But
official off season starts last week.
So be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram at @TheCouchQuarterback. For Andrew Roachford, that's Ben Steinberg, and we will see you guys on the flip side.
Deuces.